Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, where your health and wellness needs are met. Did you know that women and women of color don't talk that much about money? And did you also know that the health and wellness community is a $600 billion business? And did you also know that most women aren't in the forefront of decision making? We're here to change that. This is the first podcast that discusses health and wealth in the most unorthodox ways. And without further ado, your host, Eugenie George. Hey, this is Eugenie, and you are listening to the Money and Flow podcast. I'm actually very, very excited that you are here. I'm glad that you're here listening. In today's episode, we're talking about Colin Kapernick and why there aren't any women or men that are considered to be freedom fighters or any Colin Kaepernicks in the world of finance. So today we're going to talk about the ugly truth about finances and create a dialogue around true financial activism. Whether you like it or not, we live in a capitalistic society, and it is important to look at the ugly truth of money and who's been at the forefront of making decision making. After we look at that, we'll actually do some takeaways, and we'll talk about how you can make many financial movements. Now, if you've listened to the other podcasts, the financial movements are very similar to the movements that we talked about in the other podcasts, so you can actually skip those. But if you need to refresh your memory, I highly suggest re-listening to those ideas. I do think we are humans are creatures of habit, so if we hear something over and over again, eventually we will do it. Current vice president of Starbucks and former president of Ariel Investment, Melanie Dobson, wrote a very compelling article about asking the public, why aren't there any freedom fighters in corporate finance? So in so many words, Dobson said that there is a very small percentage in women and minorities fighting for economic issues. Economic issues are at the end all be all when it comes to building a future, communities, and families. And simply to answer Melanie Dobson's question, there just aren't enough females in finance. Okay, there are not enough females in finance. There are not enough people of color in finance. So this is really a very serious problem. I don't know if you know, but there was a recent article written out by CNBC, and there is only one woman, and this woman also is a person of color, stock trader on the floor. So there is only one woman right now in 2018 that is a trader on the floor, okay? Also, there's one president. Fortunately, we have a president of the New York Stock Exchange that is a female, but she is the first female in the 217 years that they've created the stock market in New York, which is absolutely crazy. So I want to tell you guys some of those numbers because it's a little freaky, but I also want you to think about how you can use finances in your everyday life, or even thinking about transitioning to a finance role. When we break down the percentage of how many women are in finance, it's a little bit on the scarier side. So if we're thinking about financial planners, those are people that look at your whole comprehensive plan, there are around 35% are women, okay? But unfortunately, around 2% are African American and Latino, okay? So those are really, really small numbers. When we look at women that are in the leadership positions in venture capital or private equity, women held just 9 and 6% of the positions, respectively. So I've already said that there's only one female stock trader on the floor. The rest of the numbers are just as scary, okay? So for years, we've talked about how finance is a man's game, and although we don't admit it, some of us don't think that we're good at money. And sadly, I personally have had many encounters where I myself, as a woman, did not think that I was good at numbers. So, my sad money story is I used to appear to be good with numbers when I was younger, but that kind of fell at the wayside when I went to school and I became a teacher. And I did teach math, but it was third and fourth grade math. So I thought those were subjects that I could handle or manage. But, anyways, while I was teaching, I wanted to get my MBA and I didn't know where to start. So someone told me that I should take a couple of prerequisite classes to boost up my MBA score. So I took an accounting class after school every single day. And for a really long time, I was struggling with my classwork. One, because I didn't know that what I was taking was managerial accounting instead of personal accounting. So I think that was probably one of the biggest issues because I had no idea that you could separate the two. The other thing was I was working full time, and this was my first math class after college. So I didn't understand most of the math concepts at that time. So I had this teacher. The teacher was a very interesting guy, nice guy, older, must have been in his 60s, probably late 60s, but he was not the best teacher. And I remember coming in to class and he must have had a really rough day because he was not in his normal good spirits. So at in that class, everyone appeared to be asking the same questions over and over again, and he got really frustrated. So I ended up asking the last question, and he flipped out and he directly started yelling at me. And he charged at me and was like, "Don't you know this stuff? I don't think you guys know anything about math. I don't think you're ready. I don't think you're prepared." So, as someone that is a teacher and someone that at that time I worked in places that had students with lower socioeconomic backgrounds, that really pissed me off because how dare you say something that I don't know math, I don't know numbers. That's a bunch of crap. So I lashed out at him and I said in front of the classroom that he was being disrespectful to me and I did not like his tone in class. And afterwards he apologized, but he didn't do it in front of the class. There was just weird power dynamic, but he did apologize after he yelled and told me that I wasn't good at math. But I got really frustrated and so I ended up quitting the class. And for a while I felt very disempowered and I did not feel intelligent at all. And I know that that's not true, but there was something that really made me sad about how could you have the audacity to yell at someone that was a woman, but you did not yell at anyone else in the class. It was really frustrating for me because I had never seen him yell at anyone else, but he decided to yell at me. That's not to say that my question was wrong. That's not to say that his question was correct. I don't know. But all I know is that that moment of time, I did not have it. So I quit the class. Now, a couple of years later, I ended up reading Robert Greene's Power, or 48 Laws of Power. And what Robert Greene talks about is how people use power and power dynamics to get what they want. So at the core, everyone has positive intentions, but we use power and manipulation to get that outcome. So isn't that a crazy thought? We all think that most people, human nature is good, right? But we know that we have to get over people or we got to get got, you know what I'm saying? In order to achieve that goal. So it's a really weird concept. But once I read that book, I realized that what my teacher was doing was getting really frustrated at me, and it had nothing to do with me. It had everything to do with him trying to exert his power. So after I read that book, I had this really crazy epiphany, like, you know what? Let me take another accounting class. And I ended up taking 2 accounting classes, one as an undergraduate course and then one as a master's course. And you know what? I got an A in both of them. And I realized that because I'm already interested in personal finance, that I had more of the drive to do that. But I also think that most of us don't have these opportunities to learn about numbers and learn about how money influences us. If you have a job, if you have a business, if you have children, all of those things require money. So you can't say that you don't deal with money, because we deal with money on an everyday basis. Unless you're living on a rock somewhere in Tibet, you're dealing with money. So it's something that you should really think about. Okay. So there are a couple of myths that really, really affect me in my everyday life, but I know that they affect most women. And we're going to talk about some of these. And we're going to debunk a lot of these myths because they're pretty much a bunch of crap. So myth number one is, I'm not good at numbers. Do you know how to pay your bills? Check. Did you also finish high school or a GED? Check. Then all of those means that you're good at numbers, okay? It's hard to wrap your head around it, but you are good with numbers, okay? Historically, we know that women lose interest between, especially with math or money, between the ages of 11 to 15. There are several gender stereotypes and small percentage of role models that's one of the reasons why people start to say that I'm not a numbers person. I'm not good with numbers. You're really good with numbers. But in a nutshell, you are good with numbers, okay? If you pay your bills, if you, drive, you're good with numbers, okay? So that's something that you need to debunk from the get-go. The next thing is you need to stop blaming the education system. Oh my goodness. If I hear another person talk about how it's the education system's fault, I'm going to flip my lid, because the truth is that a whopping 99% of adults agree that personal finance ought to be taught in schools. But let's think about this. If most people are living paycheck to paycheck, around 70% to be exact, how can we expect teachers to be experts at financial planning? Okay, so that's not even real. They have Common Core, they have testing. Unless there is a full comprehensive lesson plan, or they can learn how to manage their own finances, then it's not going to be achievable unless you yourself, or you the teacher, thinks about money in a positive way. And this is a really crazy statistic, because when I actually looked at the New York Times, I wanted to know about what is the percentage of men versus women in education. And I found out that 80% of teachers are women. Okay. So if we as women don't believe in money, and we're not doing our freedom fighter stuff, and we're also teachers, do you think we have the confidence right now to teach and talk about money? No, we don't. And it's really frustrating, because there are so many people that I know that are teachers, that are educators, that are amazing at what they do, and actually are really good with money, and they never ever want to talk about it. We never talk about money. It's just really, really a sad thing, because money can actually bring financial freedom to a lot of people, okay? They say that if you give women equal pay, it can eradicate about 50% of poverty, okay? That is a crazy thought, right? So if we think about that, we think about the education system, there's no way that we could create a comprehensive financial plan for students unless we confidently feel that we can handle our own finances, okay? The next myth, oh Lord, I can't with this. Okay. The next myth is that it's for white men only. That's, whew. If I hear someone tell me that again, that this is for white men and white men are out to control. Now, there is a couple of really scary statistics, and we do know that males dominate the financial space, okay? It's well known, but one of the most common excuses or the things that I've heard from women is that men don't want women in the financial industry. So if men don't want you to work for your company or they don't value you, then you shouldn't even try. Well, first of all, one, you don't know every man, so you can't say that. Two, you can't say every man is sexist because you don't know that. And three, if you don't try, you won't know, okay? First of all, you should learn that you are valuable, regardless of what anybody says, regardless of what anybody thinks. Your opinion and your life matters. And I don't mean it in like a Black Lives Matter thing. I mean like your life is very important. I do believe in the Black Lives Matter movement. However, this is something that's really different. When I told people that I was transitioning from working in the education industry to finance, you could not believe how many people told me that I was going to have a really hard time specifically working with white men. There were tons of comments about how Black people would get screwed over, and I've heard from several women and people of color would actually, they should distrust people of color the most too. So there was just all these crazy statistics and ideas that I had no clue what I was getting into. And then I got frustrated, but I realized that if I don't try and apply for some of these jobs, then how are we going to actually change the industry at all? We will not be able to make a huge financial gain or a financial feminist gain if we do not talk about money and if we do not try to get these jobs in the financial industry. There are so many people that are looking for another job, or they have a business and they're not managing their finances well. It's really hard because you hear so many negative things from all different what type of ways. It's really crazy. And I'm going to be honest with you, the odds of entering the financial field as a minority or a female, it can be really challenging. There are terrible instances of where companies do actually screw people over based off of microaggressions. So I'm looking at you, Merrill Lynch, mostly. But the good news is that with the Me Too movement and this podcast and a bunch of other people, we're discussing what it looks like for women to be in finance. Hey, it's me again. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. I wish I could have a conversation with someone about money and wealth. Well, the good news is you can actually find the Money and Flow podcast at the Facebook group Money and Flow. Or you can also find us at Money and Flow Podcast on the Instagram, okay? So if you want to talk about money, you want to talk about wealth, you want to manifest it, you want to Colin Kapernick it, we will connect you with the right people. All right, so we talked a lot about Colin Kaepernick, or the lack thereof, when it comes to finances. And some of you guys may be thinking, maybe finance could be a career that I would be interested in, but I don't really know where to start. Well, we are creatures of habit. We're also creatures of, we can change. That's the beauty of being a human. We can change our habits. We can also, if we are thinking about jumping into the financial industry, come up with different ways. So for some of you that have already listened to the previous 3 podcasts, which was Cardi B, we also talked about a Jen Sincero book, as well as there's just so many of them. Here's the deal. What you need to actually pay attention to is you can make these real money moves and you can actually activate your career, specifically when it comes to finance, because honestly, they are looking for people. So that is really nice. But the other thing is, this is just a way for you to activate your money any time of the day. You don't have to be a financial advisor. You might love your job being creative. You might love your job being a teacher. I'm not saying go and change that. But if you are thinking about doing something different, this would be a good industry to jump into. So, number 1, Find your financial BFFs. If you want a better job, if you want to work in finance, even if you want to work in wellness, you need to find people that are either 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, period. If you are literally hanging out with the same people, you're not going to grow. The same goes for financial BFFs, the same goes for pretty much anything. If you want to be the most healthiest version of yourself, you got to find someone that is going to push you, okay? So the next thing is, all right, y'all. I know you have some woes about money or you've had issues about it. I've also had issues about it. It's just kind of a thing. We're creatures of habit, and we also make mistakes. So if you are like me, I would say hold a forgiveness party. And I know that is very, very woo woo, but I stress this, and I know that a lot of other people stress this because we are always taught to hold our emotions in. We're always taught to smile, be nice, make sure that we're not showing our emotions. When we're thinking about our money, a lot of that stuff is translated into our money decisions and how we move and how we flow into money. Okay. I have a great story. When I was a kid, we didn't always have the most money, and I could literally remember being driving, and one of my relatives said, "Get out of the car." I was like, that's a little crazy to ask me to get out of the car. But as soon as I got out of the car, we picked up, there's $100 bill. I got out of the car, there's $100 bill. And my relative was like, this is something that we're lucky, we are very lucky people. And for some reason, I had that like, oh yes, I have to be lucky. But whenever I wasn't lucky with my money because it was just, sometimes it's random coincidence, sometimes it's structure, sometimes it's planning. I beat myself up the entire time. So you might be feeling the same way, but yes, hold a forgiveness party, okay? We always have to put that fake financial smile. We're always pretending like we're living our best life. Sometimes I look at my Instagram and I'm like, I'm really trying to manifest my best life, but I wish I was Bougenet 24/7 instead of Bougenet. That's what I like to call myself when I'm doing lavish things, okay? So having a forgiveness party, you can have your friends, you could have a couple of strangers, but having that forgiveness party is really essential because you can actually see where your money story and where you were and where you want to go. Now, the other thing is, which I really think that a lot of people don't do, but there's a great book called The Myth of the Nice Girl. I think her name is Fran Hauser. Great author, very realistic, and also is like a complete baller because she's doing incredibly well. And anywho, she told everyone to write out their job reflection or write out all the skills that you have created. Doing that, you'd be surprised how transferable your skills are if you're deciding or making the decision to go into the financial field. Even if you're thinking about making the decision to become a personal trainer or become a yogi, all of those skills, girl, if you know how to auto correct or auto respond using an email, I would say use it. That is a part of your organization skills. Now, the next thing is, this is a little tricky, but reading a book about money is very, very important. That is how you could become your own freedom fighter. There are so many books about money. There's unfortunately a very few amount of books that women have written, which I know that's about to be a big game change in the next couple, 10 to 15 years. But right now there's not that many. I recommend The Broken Beautiful Life by Stephanie O'Connell. Sometimes I don't necessarily agree with Susie Orman all the time, but she is also a good one as well. But anywho, get yourself with a money book club. Now, I know you're probably thinking, that's a whole lot of stuff that I could do. Here's the thing, and it also might be a little complicated. It's okay. It is very, very... Oh my gosh, are they playing? Okay, guys, it could be really complicated. I don't know if you can hear, there is music playing all over around in Philly. And even if I have a very quiet room, people are bumping their music. But anyways, I digress. Here's the thing. we really want you to make these money moves. We want you to activate your steps. We want you to actually think about what would it look like if I were a financial feminist. That's all we want you to think about. We want you to think about how you can activate that. So if you actually want to talk about manifesting your money through planning, pure planning, manifesting your wealth or health, you can feel free to message me either at the Money and Flow podcast on Instagram, or you can actually email the Money and Flow podcast at Gmail if you'd like to talk about just different things when it comes to health, being a woman, and wealth. We'd love to respond as quick as possible. We have a Facebook group, all right, y'all? The Facebook group is Money and Flow. Simple as that. This has been a great episode. I was really excited about listening and reading about Melody Dobson and how she's really changing the game when it comes to money and women. It's also just exciting to talk about what's going to happen next. But a lot of it is really breaking through those mindsets, thinking about what's going on in our ancestry, thinking about different scenarios that we've had when it comes to money, and really just sort of launching that awesome mindset that we definitely can achieve. And I've said it before, but y'all know if women actually have equal pay, y'all know we can alleviate poverty. And this is it. I hope you guys had a great day. I hope you enjoyed the listening. And I'll see you guys soon.